Hey there, Motherhood Chronicles. This is a wonderful idea that you have here. Get all the sides and examine the facts for yourself to make an intelligent decision. Unfortunately, you posted this challenge 2 years ago or more, and so far you've only gotten one or two theistic responses. And the Christian lady who responded to you merely quoted Bible passages. But this approach would be fine if you already believed in the Bible. But I think that is the whole question to begin with. So first you have to know that you can trust the Bible um, before it would be appropriate for her to quote passages to you to establish her point. So I am a theist and wanted to hopefully remedy the situation. I wanted to present a good case for theism, and you can add this into the pot so you can make a more balanced deliberation and decision. A comprehensive case for the existence of God can be made. This case is what I like to call 3 plus. 3 plus. There are three main arguments, or rather three main families of arguments, and those are the ontological arguments, the cosmological arguments, and the teleological arguments. That covers the 3 of 3 plus. Then the plus in 3 plus would be the argument from morality, the argument from religious experience, etc. Now all these arguments you can find easily on YouTube and elsewhere on the internet. You can find people arguing both for and against them. The case for each of these individual arguments within 3 plus is much stronger than the case against them, though, in my opinion. So though people do argue against these being good arguments, they are in fact good arguments nonetheless. Now I don't have time in a single video response to present all of 3 plus in great detail. So I'll just briefly present one example of a teleological argument for the existence of God. Teleological arguments argue from the presence of design in the universe to a divine designer. This designer, being divine of course, is God. Everyone agrees that the physical constants of the universe are fine-tuned. Even atheists admit this. One example of this fine-tuning is the gravitational constant. In other words, the strength of gravity has to be just right for life to develop, humans and animals and plants. If gravity were just a very, very tiny bit stronger, the universe would not expand. But we know from science that the universe is expanding, and we know that because of the Big Bang and other scientific considerations. If the universe weren't expanding, then it would not be large enough for life to develop. On the other hand, if gravity were just a tiny, tiny bit weaker, the universe would expand too quickly. In that case, planets would not form. If there are no planets, then there are no life on planets, like the planet Earth. So there would be no life in that case. So gravity has to be just right. It can't be too strong or too weak. It can't change even a little bit. Well, it can change a very, 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 very minuscule amount, and life can still develop. But it's a very, very small range of values that this constant can take in order for life to develop. So that's one of many constants that is finely tuned. So here is the argument from fine-tuning. Premise 1, the fine-tuner is either personal or impersonal. Premise 2, the fine-tuner is not impersonal. Conclusion number 3, therefore the fine-tuner is personal. If the fine-tuner were impersonal, what would it, the fine-tuner, be? Mother Nature or scientific law, of course. But nature can't explain the fine-tuning as premise 2 says. Why do I say this? Because the fine-tuning is a fact of nature. It is a part of nature in some sense. The fine-tuning began when nature began. You see, science describes what the laws of nature do to matter. It does not describe the laws of nature in and of themselves, though. What law of nature could there be before there was a nature in the first place? And I'm speaking here of a law of nature which dictates the fine-tuning. Clearly there was nothing before, clearly there was nothing natural before there was anything natural. So we have Mother Nature coming into being. There was no Mother Nature before Mother Nature came into being to cause these constants to be what they are. That's what I'm trying to say. So the fine-tuner cannot be impersonal, as was said in premise 2 of the argument. The fine-tuner can only be personal. And who could this personal fine-tuner be? The only possible answer is that he is some sort of godlike being. In other words, a being like a god exists, or we could say more simply that God exists. That is one way to prove that God exists, the argument from fine-tuning. The main rebuttal to this proof from fine-tuning is to suggest that there might be a multiverse. That is, that our universe could be one of many universes. In the larger multiverse, there is perhaps some sort of impersonal universe-creating machine. One of the universes it created would have to be fine-tuned, and that is the one we live in. So each universe is going to have different values for the physical constants. One of them, at least, is going to be given enough time and so on. One of these universes will be fine-tuned, and that's the one that we happen to live in. If we didn't live in that universe, then life wouldn't have developed, because the physical constants aren't right for the development of life. That's the rebuttal argument. Okay, but there are at least 3 problems with this rebuttal. First, there is no reason to suppose that there is a multiverse. No reason, that is, unless one really, really wants to believe there is no God, and they have heard this argument from fine-tuning. The atheist is grasping at straws, and so they invent a lame loophole. And that's the second. That brings us to the second problem, what philosophers would call ad hoc. They really, really want atheism to be true, and so they invent a highly unlikely, highly implausible, lame excuse. So they keep modifying their view, atheism, so it remains true no matter what evidence is brought against it. Thirdly and finally, the multiverse only delays the fine-tuning question one step. It does not get rid of a personal fine-tuner. Why is the universe-creating machine finely tuned, we could ask in that case. So even if there is a multiverse, there still must be a personal fine-tuner. To conclude, the fine-tuning argument for the existence of God is a good argument, and there are no good rebuttals to it. It is one way of many to know that God really does exist. God exists. So there you have just a brief presentation of a case for the existence of God. And if you have any questions, I guess I wasn't very clear in explaining the why the second premise is true, at least as clear as I want it to be. But if you have any questions about comprehension or otherwise, feel free to ask me about that. I'd be happy to answer your questions for you. Thank you. This is Evangelical One signing off. Shalom to you, and have a great and wonderful day. Bye now.